We're here at the German-American Trade and Tech Conference organized by the Aspen Institute with Ash Jain. You're the director for Democratic Order, the Scowcroft Strategic Initiative from the Atlantic Council. My first question to you is, because you've talked a lot about friendshoring, and it's often named as the preferred strategy to reduce trade relations with autocracies and increase supply chain security. What effects could that have on our everyday life?
Well, friendshoring or ally shoring, as it's sometimes called, refers to sourcing critical goods and services from trusted partners, friends and allies who we can count on and who share values and share an interest in supporting the rules-based order. As we know, Russia and China both have become revisionist autocracies that are challenging the international order, and the last thing we, the democracies, want to do is put ourselves in a position of giving them coercive influence over our economies and over our political decision making. So what friendshoring does is it provides a means to ensure that we're not overly dependent on China or Russia for critical goods and services. It means that those supply chains should be encouraged to shift over from China or Russia and towards trusted partners, trusted allies, which are going to be more reliable. And over time, those shifts will be beneficial for most people, and including in terms of how they go about their everyday lives. We may see some price increases as those shifts are being made. Right now, the market is essentially determining where supply chains should be located, manufacturing facilities, and that's often driven by a decision to go where it's cheapest to produce those goods. If friendshoring were to be embraced, we might see supply chains shifting to where it's more reliable rather than just simply cheaper, and so there is the risk of price increases. On the other hand, we're not talking about the entire global economy. We're talking about a certain segment of critical goods and services. Those things like lithium-ion batteries, pharmaceutical ingredients, things that we find ourselves overly dependent in a situation of overdependence on China currently. And so it's better to make those investments now in friendshoring than pay a much higher price later if we were to find ourselves in a situation where we have to impose sanctions or where there's a conflict that disrupts those supply chains.
Thank you for your insights. Would you say the world is dividing between democracies and autocracies, or?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's one that we've seen President Biden talk a lot about when he takes a look and frames the era that we're in, often described as an era of democracy versus autocracy, of strategic competition between democracy and autocracy. And to some degree, I think he's describing the world as it is. We're seeing leading democracies, the U.S., other democratic allies and partners standing together to resist aggression by autocracies, namely in this case Russia and Ukraine. So standing up to defend democracy, standing to counter aggression by autocracies, that is an aspect of the world that we're currently living in. At the same time, there are a number of other countries that are not choosing sides or don't want to choose sides between democracy and autocracy, including many democracies, countries like India, Brazil, South Africa. And so it is probably not accurate to describe the world as it currently is as dividing into blocks. Rather, we're starting to see kind of at least three conglomerations of groups that are looking at the challenges that we are facing from Russia and China. Those that are ready to take action and stand together to counter those kinds of violations of international norms. Those on the other side, Russia and China, that are looking to disrupt and displace potentially that international order. And then a third kind of grouping or just multi-aligned countries, as sometimes they call themselves, or non-aligned, those that are not looking to take sides, whether they're democracies or not. So it's a complicated world that we're heading in, but I think the narrative of a world that stands for democratic values and human rights, and rule of law and the rules-based order is taking shape versus those that are trying to disrupt or displace that order.
Thank you so much, and thank you for joining us for our conference, and especially for joining in the Oxford-style debate about friendshoring and multilateralism, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thank you very much. I enjoyed the debate.